Shall we please close our eyes for a short prayer? Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to you for this morning. We thank you for this gathering. We thank you for bringing us here safely. We thank you, Father, for an opportunity to engage. We want to commit this ceremony into your hands. We ask that you will be with us from the beginning to the end. Those who are joining us, bring them here safely and help us that everything will be successfully. Through your Son, Jesus Christ, I will pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Amen. I'll please ask that we rise so that we sing the Yenare Assassini as a sign of a national. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we please have our seats? Can we please have our seats? Good morning once again. And on behalf of the board and management of the Center for Policy Scrutiny, I welcome you all to our premises and to our first public engagement as a research public policy advocacy institution. CPS is a new generation think tank based in Ghana and committed to shaping Africa's future through data-driven ideas. Our focus areas include the economy, youth, and sustainable development, and these, we believe, reflect Africa's most urgent priorities. At CPS, we turn data findings into practical proposals that influence national and continental policy. Our commitment is that regularly we will conduct deep empirical research and bring you its findings. For our maiden public engagement, we have reviewed the current flagship economic program of Ghana, the 24-hour economy program. And our objective is to give feedback to policymakers so that implementation will be smooth. Before I introduce you to our first speaker, I would like to acknowledge the presence of some personalities who have joined us here. First, I want to say a big welcome to the Israeli ambassador to Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, His Excellency Roy Gilad. Thank you very much for joining us. We also have a rep from the Dutch embassy here. Thank you so much. And of course, we have a solid team from the 24-hour Economy Secretariat represented here. I will take my time and go through their names. Dr. Ishmael Nidudu, he is Director and Head of Partnerships and Markets at the 24-hour Economy Secretariat. We also have Mr. Louis Kweku, who is the Head of Administration here. Thank you. And Mr. Edwin Abaka, who is Economic Policy Analyst. Thank you very, very much. And my name is Kweku Obenje. I'm the Head of Corporate Affairs here at the Center. Now, just to set the tone for us for this morning's event, I'd like to invite my colleague, who is also the head of programs here at CPS, Ms. Stephanie Anochua-Terrier, to give us, set the tone for us, actually, before we hear from our executive director. Please, a round of applause for her.
Thank you, Kweku. Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and partners in development. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the Center for Policy Scrutiny's maiden presentation. So as my colleague Kweku rightly said, CPS is committed to fostering evidence-based dialogue and shaping ideas that influence policy. As such, the team of experts here at CPS have reviewed one of Ghana's most ambitious programs, which is the 24-hour Economy and Accelerated Export Development Plan, which I'll be referring to as the 24H+. Our paper offers a critical yet constructive assessment of the program's design, its strategic intent, and implementation prospects. Now, at the core of the 24H+ is reimagining Ghana's economic architecture by extending productive hours, unlocking latent capacity across priority sectors, and catalyzing inclusive growth. It is a bold ambition, is expansive in scope, and is timely in its response to structural challenges such as unemployment, industrial underperformance, and regional inequality. However, we can all agree that ambition alone is not enough. Effective program design and delivery require coherence, realism, and institutional discipline. Today's presentation is not just a technical review, it's an invitation to dialogue. We hope that it will spark thoughtful engagement across government, civil society, academia, the media, and the private sector. Because building a resilient, job-rich, and diversified economy is not the work of one institution alone. It is a collective mandate. After today's presentation, I will open the floor for a question and answer session, which will be followed closely by a reflection section. I encourage you all to engage critically and objectively as we collectively explore how to best shape Ghana's economic future. Once again, thank you all for making time to join us here, and I look forward to a very engaging and forward-looking conversation. Now, it's an honor for me to introduce the presenter for today, who is Executive Director here at CPS, in the person of Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie. Dr. Sarkodie is a senior lecturer at the Department of Economics at the University of Ghana. He has a background which includes an MPhil and a PhD in economics from the University of Ghana as well. He's a respected scholar with published work in development economics, health economics, and public finance. He is also a product of the African Economic Research Consortium and a recipient of the BECHS Africa Postdoctoral Fellowship at the University of America, Cairo. Throughout his career, Dr. Sarkodie has taught courses such as the Economy of Ghana, Economic Growth and Development, Industrial Economics, and Development Finance. He also contributes to the development of ECOWAS Regional Economic Outlook and is widely known for his media engagement on Ghana's national budget, economic policy, and macroeconomic trends. Distinguished guests, please join me in welcoming Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie.
Thank you, Steph. Good morning. Hey, I'm greeting you. Good morning. I don't find ladies in our midst. We are not gender sensitive. Huh? Next time we will learn from our lessons. So this paper, the review, is put together by a team from CPS, led by myself and Miss Stephanie Anochiwa Teria. As a way of outline of presentation, we'll go through the introduction, and then the 24-hour economy program, what it is and what it is not. And we'll look at the critical observations that we've made in the program. That we conclude with some recommendations. Okay, so if you are ready, I'm also ready. Let's start. As a way of introduction, we all know the 24H+ is the flagship program of the government, which was launched on the 2nd of July 2025. And then in the program is billed as the national agenda for productivity, competitiveness, and inclusive growth. In the words of the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, it is a reset program of the administration. So this review sets out the critical reflections on the program. We first look at what the program is, and we give you our vital perspectives of it. Now, the objectives of this review and this forum is to influence the discourse around the program and provide some evidence-based recommendations to strengthen the strategic coherence, fiscal credibility, and implementation feasibility of the program. So the 24-hour economy program, what it is, before we look at what it is not, and then look at our observations. Number one, the program is a strategic vision for sectorial and value chain development. Now, as we are aware, if you read the program about 287 pages, you find out that what the program is talking about is to have a national economic transformation program which aims at transforming the economy from the exportation of raw materials to a more value-added exports, and also to reduce our dependence on importation of finished products, with the idea of doing this through the shift system, the 2 or 3 day shift system. This is pursued by developing value chains in strategic sectors, including the agro-processing, pharmaceuticals, light manufacturing, tourism, creative arts, digital services, etc., and etc. In fact, the list is very tall in the program. It's quite comprehensive. Now, the goal of the program is to have a more productive, diversified and resilient economy featuring robust export base and plenty of good quality jobs. The 24-hour economy program is structured with about 8 sub-programs. And now let's go through the 8. First is the Grow 24, focusing on agricultural transformation, Make 24 on manufacturing, Build 24, concentrating on construction, Show 24 on culture, creative arts, and tourism, Connect 24, of course, when you produce something, you must connect it to the consumers. Connect 24 is about logistics, transformation, transportation, and efficient markets. Fund 24 is about financing of the program. Aspire 24 is about human capital development, that's work skills and work culture. Go 24 is about public education and mobilization of the public behind the government so that this vision can be envisaged. Now, these 8 sub-programs are anchored on 3 strategic pillars, i.e. production transformation, supply chain and market efficiency, and then human capital development. Our third observation is that the third pillar of the program is that the program has a framework of targeted interventions and complementary initiatives to catalyze sectorial productivity and inclusive growth. So the program, as you read about 287 pages, you see that it outlines a suited, targeted policies, interventions, and investments embedded within the integrated sub-programs, the 8 sub-programs. Now, the implementation of these activities is projected to drive domestic production, to substitute imports, increase exports, and expand employment. And the targeted economic growth rate for the average for the medium term is 6% growth rate. And the program projects, when implemented, they project to create a little over 400,000 jobs a year. So by 2026, we should expect about 828,000 jobs by 2028, about 1.76 million jobs, and by 2034, about 5.3 million jobs. The 24-hour economic program, what it is not. So we have talked about what it is, and now what it is not before we look at our observations. Number 1, the 24-hour economic program is not a directive for the adoption of the 3-shift system, the 3-shift employment, the 133. We all remember that in the run-up to the elections, we had a 133, 1 job for 3 persons for 3 shifts, which the idea was to multiply jobs and reduce the unemployment in the country. The program, if you read it carefully, has identified that the road to a shift system is through addressing the multi-sectorial constraints of production and consumption. In other words, The destination is the trade-shift system. Now, the road to get there is to transform the economy. And we have also identified that the 24-hour economy program is not a blueprint for creating trade-shift jobs, the promotion of which, if anything at all, the shift system is only a marginal aspect of it when you read the program carefully. And on page 81 of the program, you see that they have indicated that the program has two wings, the destination and the program. So the program is about economic transformation. The destination is the shift system. Number two, the 24H plus is not defined by shift work indicators. So there are a number of suggested outcome indicators that are not related to the shift system. So the 24-hour economy may be suggesting around-the-clock operations, but this document as it is a broader vision for national transformation agenda. And we are of the view that the shift system is neither a prerequisite nor a defining feature of economic transformation. In other words, when an economy is transformed, it may or may not need a shift system. Okay, so now that we know what the program is and what it is not, let's journey through the 9 observations we've made. 9 observations. So I'm your pilot. If you are ready, let's fly. Okay, 9 of them. Number 1, the program correctly diagnoses Ghana's developmental challenges and prescribes solutions. And I had a chat with a team from the Secretariat, and I recommend them for this work done. They really interrogated Ghana's economy. In fact, they have a whole page, like a whole part of it devoted for that. They also even made references to the past developmental agendas in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, which we got to know that these developmental programs were just state-led. And then in the around the Fourth Republic, we have seen that most of the programs are less state-centric, more of bringing in the private sector. We also observe that the 24H Plus shares some characteristics with past developmental programs. For instance, the Coordinated Program of Economic and Social Development Policies 2017 to 2024 has in it agricultural transformation and industrialization. That's where you find this planting for food and jobs, planting for exports, and rural development, etc. The 24H Plus also has agricultural transformation, industrialization, and the rest. The program that we are reviewing today, though shares some characteristics with past developmental programs, it differs from the past ones. First of all, the Volta Lake, the economic activity, the Volta Economic Corridor, in our view, is in fact, the document has acknowledged that the 24-hour economy and accelerated export development program is the flagship program of this administration. Within the program, the Volta Economic Corridor is the flagship of the program. And we are really happy to see that. We know the Volta Lake, the economic activities around it, if well developed, can help a lot. And this program also differs from other existing programs because there are a number of fresh fiscal incentives for the private sector, including bonuses for exporters, income tax credits for investors, infrastructure, and tax rebates for firms having multiple shift operations. Number 2 observation. Our second observation is that this program has a cross-cutting nature, which has proposed interventions and that make the program very comprehensive. It touches on all angles of the economy. Name it. Name it. It is very comprehensive. And again, we commend the team. So it's trying to address sectors of the economy, social sectors, economic sectors, simultaneously. It also acknowledges that the program fosters systematic improvements across the economy, creating synergies between the sectors. So you see the interconnectivity or interdependence of each of the sub-programs and their targets. For instance, the Grow 24 depends on the Make 24 for farm implements and also a market. And then the Make 24 will also depend on the Grow 24 for raw materials. If you want to produce sugar, you need sugar cane. So the Grow 24 will give you the sugar cane, and the Make 24 will give you the sugar. And the Make 24 will provide a market for the Grow 24, which we think is good. And the development of the voter, so the comprehensiveness of the program enhances resilience, promotes inclusive growth, and ensures that the benefits of the policy reach various demographics and regions of the country, providing a more balanced, sustainable development. Number 3 is our almighty voter basin. Right? The program has a transformation agenda of the voter basin into economic corridor and promote industrial activity and trade. This is what we term as the flagship of the flagship, okay, the flagship of the flagship. The 24-hour economy program has identified the potential around the voter basin, and it also considers the special impact of consideration, the fact that Ghana's development has concentrated in the south, and this voter basin, the voter economic corridor, considers development in the middle belt and then the upper belt of the country, the northern belt of the country. And we think that is something that we should commend them for doing. The program also, based on our reflections, also projects alignment with regional integration. With the AU, we know the African Continental Free Trade Area. It also aligns with the visions of ECOWAS. And it wants to project Ghana as a logistical and agricultural powerhouse within West Africa. If implemented effectively, this program, if implemented effectively, it could serve as a catalyst for inclusive development, job creation, and sustained economic modernization. Observation number 4. The 24H+ focus on agro-industrialization to drive economic transformation is laudable. We all know the potential of the agricultural sector in terms of its contribution to GDP and its contribution to employment. But over the period, we have not exploited the potential of the agricultural sector. So for this program to emphasize agro-processing, we think is commendable. And the 24-hour economy program identifies these failings and proposes actions and projects to improve the situation. Observation 5. The position of the 24H+ in Ghana's medium-term development framework is unclear. In Ghana's institutional context, the programs of this nature are ideally prepared by the National Development Planning Commission and integrated into the National Development Plan. And that will serve as a basis for all the district-level plans and then also the sectorial-level plans, translating into the annual plans and being financed through the budget to ensure coherence between development programs and fiscal allocations. Programs outside of anything led by the NDPC may potentially be duplicative, suffer weak linkages with the fiscal program, dimming implementation prospects. This disconnect represents a primary challenge of the 24-hour economy program. A good illustration is the policy overlap in the agricultural sector. We've seen policy overlap in some sectors, but let's take the agricultural sector as an example. We have Grow 24, and the 24-hour economy program has not been implemented yet. It's been launched. But the Feed Ghana is ongoing. So one would ask these following questions. Feed Ghana, Grow 24, which of these two programs is the government's principal agricultural transformation intervention? Another question to ask, would both programs be implemented simultaneously, despite their overlapping mandates? And the third question to ask is, which program will be prioritized in alignment with the fiscal framework that governs resource allocation. And I'm sure the team, they are taking notes, they will answer the question for us. Number 6, observation 6. In the absence of ex-ante appraisals, the proposed projects pose significant implementation and fiscal risk. We've seen a number of strategic projects outlined in the program. Now, these appraisals have not been done. When done properly, to provide financial viability of the projects and the proposed implementation models. The appraisals of these tall lists of projects are only beneficial to not only the government, but also to the private sector. The government will be able to prevent misallocation of resources and correctly determine its fiscal commitments and risks to the projects. For the investors, these appraisals will help them reduce risk and attract capital. When properly done, if you do these appraisals of the various projects that have been outlined in the program, it will inject some realism into the overall ambition of the 24-hour economy. Observation number 7. The proposed fiscal incentives warrant a review to ensure alignment with national priorities and fiscal sustainability. And this, I will admit, that they have so many fiscal incentives to encourage productivity, boost production, employment generation, etc. But some of the fiscal incentives, we are raising questions so that we talk about it. For example, if you are saying that you're going to grant corporate income tax rebates of 25% and 50% to firms operating 2 or 3 shift systems, respectively, we are of the view that the shift patterns alone do not constitute a sufficient basis for determining eligibility for tax subsidies. The incentive design should be based on productivity, employment outcomes, and sectorial impact to ensure fiscal efficiency and policy coherence. The administrative processes are also ignored, and we believe that these administrative processes have some merits and should not be dismissed. Observation number 8. The overall cost of the program is likely to be underestimated. It is widely reported that the cost for 24H Plus is $4 billion USD. But our review has shown that the 24-hour economy, that $4 billion is just an aspect of the cost. And that can be found on page 199. And so they have $4 billion, they have $1 billion also for the special purpose vehicle, and they have $300 million for all these things for the SMEs, etc., etc. So we believe that we should have a proper costing of the program, which will include all the direct cost and indirect cost. The indirect cost, we see the incentives that we are giving away. They may reduce the public finances, and these, we believe, should be accounted for to have a true picture of the full cost of the program. Now, when we present a partial view of the cost like this, it may undermine the credibility and weakens the basis for informed decision-making. And finally, observation number 9, the program's infrastructure ambitions do not square with the current trajectory of public investment. So you want to do 24-hour economic program, you have outlined a number of projects to be undertaken, you want to develop the Volta Basin, and yet the commitment of the government in terms of CAPEX, the capital expenditure, is on a decline. We've seen that in the 10-year period of 2005 and 2014, the average CAPEX as a ratio of GDP was 3.6%. Between 2015 and 2024, it fell to 2.8%. And the program is projecting, or the budget is projecting, 2.7% CAPEX as a ratio of GDP. So in terms of nominal figure, it may be increasing, but some of us are economists, we deal with figures. The ratio of GDP is on a decline. And I think that we should have a look at it again. And if government is unable to commit much to the program, then we believe that the program will heavily rely on private sector investment. So thank you for staying with me. In conclusion, I hope you enjoyed the flight. So in conclusion, the 24H+, we believe, reflects the government of Ghana's need to fill the pressing need for a stronger, more diversified, and job-rich economy. The program's emphasis on value chain development and export competitiveness aligns with the country's pursuit of long-term transformation. However, the program's success will not only depend on its vision, but also on a coherence and efficiency to reduce implementation and fiscal risks. Therefore, we propose the following recommendation. Number 1, integrate the 24H+ into Ghana's medium-term development framework so that it will be led by NDPC and to have financing from the budget. Number 2, establish transparent costing and phased fiscal planning. The government is encouraged to publish detailed, or the Secretariat is encouraged to publish detailed cost estimates of the program, if necessary, so that, when adopted, it will be more transparent, it will support budget discipline, and enable stakeholder confidence and reduce risks. Recommendation 3 is that the Secretariat or the government or the framers of the program must undertake robust appraisals of major projects to justify projects and mitigate investment risk. This, we think, will justify public investment, mitigate risk, and ensure that resources are directly directed toward high-impact, scalable initiatives. Our 4th recommendation is that there must be a targeted tax incentive to catalyze developmental priorities. This, we believe that the Secretariat did a good job to go halfway. The other half is what we are recommending. The other half, that the incentives must be targeted, especially when you are talking about giving incentives to just the shift system, companies practicing shift system. We believe that it's not enough. And this would reduce waste, reduce the revenue leakages, and attract credible private sector participation, get value for money. The 5th recommendation is that they should align infrastructure ambitions with public investment commitments. As we have seen, that there's a tall list of projects to be done. In fact, the voter basin alone is big enough, and therefore we should encourage increment in public spending, public expenditure spending, which should be matched with private also expenditure spending. We know that, those of us who teach economics in class, when we are calculating aggregate demand, you say it's equal to GDP, it's equal to C plus I plus J plus NX. And the I in that equation is both public and private. So in the event that the public is not forthcoming, then you only rely on the private. But we believe that the two must go, because this program is really a serious business, and we want the government to succeed. And our 6th and last recommendation is that we should institutionalize learning from past developmental strategies. Ghana has embarked on a number of developmental programs. Before independence, after independence, Kwame Nkrumah's industrialization plan, there's so many factories that they set out. Where are they now? Why did they fail? We should have institutional memory and learn from all these past mistakes. If you learn from your mistakes, you will not repeat them. And so going forward, we will not waste resources, and we all want a better Ghana for ourselves. I thank you so much for your attention. God bless you.
Thank you very much to our Executive Director, Dr. Sarkodie. So it's time for questions. So I'll ask Dr. Sarkodie a couple of questions, and then I'll come to the audience. So start getting your questions ready, and we'll take some questions from you as well. So Dr. Sarkodie, one of the things you talked about was how the 24H+ correctly diagnoses Ghana's development challenges, but the solutions are pretty similar to previous strategies of previous governments. Now, how do you think the government can ensure that the 24H Plus actually complements these existing programs rather than duplicating some of them?
Okay, thank you. So I think the coordinated program is already done. I mean, it ended in 2024. So maybe you're asking about what NDPC is doing now. So going forward, we believe that it shouldn't be the case that NDPC is doing one thing and then the Secretariat is also doing another thing. Other than that, we don't know which one we should prioritize. Are they the same? Are they different? If they are the same, what is duplication? If they are different, then what is the way forward? Because you need budgetary allocations. And therefore, I believe that the only solution, as it has been done in the past, is to integrate the 24H Plus into the NDPC-led medium-term development plan, and that we can have one plan, medium-term or long-term, for ourselves. You know, NDPC in the past or up to now, the parties would campaign and they will put their campaign message in the manifesto. When they win election, NDPC will pick the manifesto and out of which develop the medium-term plan. So we believe that the 24-hour economy being the campaign promise of NDC, this administration, it should be picked by NDPC and be integrated into the medium-term development plan so that we can have one, moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkodie. Also, just to touch on the point about the tax incentive. Now, you recommend, or in the paper, CPS recommends that the government reassesses the tax incentives or some of the tax incentives under the 24H Plus, particularly the 25 and the 50% for the 2 and 3 shift system for companies that adopt the 2 and 3 shift systems. Now, in the paper, you touched on 3 criteria that you would recommend the government uses. You mentioned productivity gains, you talked about employment outcomes, you talked about sectoral impact. Could you elaborate a little bit on how a criteria such as employment outcomes would look like in a tax incentive design?
Well, thank you. We've seen how wasteful some of the tax incentives have been in the country for the past years. And I've read a report that it cost this nation about 12 billion Ghana cedis just on tax incentives. And so if you are providing a tax incentive, it must be targeted and get the best out of it. You've seen how so many companies have abused this system, going through the free zones and other areas. So it must be given to those who deserve it, and it must not be in perpetuity. A tax incentive is given to somebody for a purpose. So we always have to go back to the reason of giving the incentive. Is it because we think that you employ more Ghanaians, that's why we are giving the incentive? Then you must employ more Ghanaians. Is it because we believe that, the second part of the topic, the 24-hour economy, is accelerated export development. So if we're a company, you are interested in adding value to increase our export base, then we will give you that incentive. But if you're not doing that, we'll take it from you. And the rate must be assessed. Is it for 5 years? The duration, is it for 5 years? Is it for 10 years? After the 5 years or the 10 years, we should not continue to give you. It must not be in perpetuity. And so productivity-wise, in terms of export, adding value to our export, you deserve it. Employment-wise, if you promise or you have indicated you're going to employ more Ghanaians, because it doesn't make sense to give incentive to a construction company that employs foreigners. Then you are giving the money back to the foreign country. And on a sectorial base, and this, I commend the team again from the Secretariat that they've outlined how they're going to give incentives based on where the firm is operating. If you are, first of all, they gave examples, like if you're in Greater Accra, like 15% corporate tax income, and then if you move to the middle, you are about 15%, 10%, and a 5%, 3% as you move up there. So if you are willing to go to areas where normally people will not want to go, then you are likely to attract more incentives to go into those areas. But incentives, let's discuss the incentives in the economic context. Because it's been wasteful, that's why people speak against it. But it's been helpful. I mean, it can be helpful. we give incentives to attract investment, to attract people to do things that other people are not willing to do. That's why we are giving you the incentives. If nobody is willing to go to the northern part, but you are willing to go and set up your factory in the northern part, then we give you the incentive because you are doing something that other people are not willing to do. And so this is how I believe we can address the tax incentives.
Thank you. So my last question, then I'll come to you, the audience. So in the final recommendation you talked about for this presentation, you recommended that the current government should institutionalize learnings from past government programs and strategies to improve delivery capacity. Now, why do you think that this is very important for a democratic country such as Ghana, where program continuity and institutional memory are often challenged by political transitions?
Yeah, thank you. If Ghana had a long-term development plan or program where every party, irrespective of whether NDC or NPP, will tone the line, this wouldn't be a problem. But we've seen how most of our programs have been influenced by politics. And one party comes, brings out this, they lose election, it's off. Another party will come. So we must first of all build the capacity of the existing institutions. We have the ministries, departments, agencies, districts, municipals. We must build their capacity so that they can have institutional memory of agro-processing. So agro-processing we did in the year 1950, 1970. Why did it fail? What lesson can we learn from it? Both at the national level, the district level, and then also the regional level. When we have this line of institutional memory and everything is Ghanaian owned, we believe that we can resolve some of these challenges that we've been facing as a country. It is not good to be starting one program and then it ends, another party comes, we start again, and just waste. I read from one of the economists that the uncompleted projects in the country cost about $2 billion a year. Uncompleted projects. So one party will start a project, and so these have been very wasteful, and we believe that we should institutionalize, have that memory from the national level down to the district level, so that we will not repeat the same mistakes going forward.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkodie. So now I'll come to our audience. If you have any questions, kindly put your hand up. You introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, and then you go with your questions. So I see 4 hands up. So let's start with this gentleman. He went first. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Doc. He happens to be my lecturer, so I understand. My name is Mohamed Abubakari. I'm a PhD student from the University of Ghana, Economics Department. I love what Doc put there, but I put some few things down. It appears that the whole program has been drafted by government, delivered by government, and so the government takes the praises or whatever comes with. It seems there's no room for private sector involvement. You could see that there's no, it's a syndrome with government programs. In 2010, somewhere 2010, government implemented RTIP, Root and Tuber Improvement Program. In the subsequent years, we had a boom in that sector, and there was a lot of waste, post-harvest losses. So the government came and added RTIMP. It seems someone sits somewhere and do a discretionary thing with no ex-post or ex-ante and ex-post analysis anywhere. So we've come to the same point in 2025. We are still going through that we've not quantified things and put in paper, and there's no room for monitoring, evaluation, research, and learning. Whatever we've seen here shows that there's no room for that. And so if that's the case, what has been the challenge? Is it funding Is it political will? Is it that we are just not interested in learning, or we are just not interested in developing this country? They should tell us so that maybe next year we pack out and say,
Who should tell you?
Thank you for your question. So should we take a second question, or you want to answer?
Three, yeah.
Okay, so we'll take a second one.
My name is Reverend Dr. Prince Eji, Senior Lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana. Thank you, Executive Director. Thank you, CPS, for this presentation. As a student of development economics, we know that plans fail primarily because of market failure and also government failure. And I want to find out how is the 24-hour economy program positioning itself to address potential market failure and government failure? That's the first question. The second question is that labor researchers have mentioned that in Ghana, our problem is not unemployment, but underemployment. Prior to the 2024 elections, we were made to believe that the 24-hour economy is 133, the same job you are going to do with 3 shifts. Today, we learned that that it is not. As a scholar, I have had a chance to read the document, but the ordinary voter in a village somewhere may still be hoping that the job will be 133. So how do we address this, information gap so that the government is not seen to be deceptive in that regard? And then, and the last one, yes, the last one is just a contribution.
Okay, we have time for contributions.
All right, thank you.
We'd like to limit ourselves to questions for now. We'll take the last question for this round, and then Dr. Sarkodie will answer the questions.
Yeah, maybe we go to the secretariat, and just allow me to do this, because as soon as I heard about the 24-hour economy, immediately I went for the document. Fortunately for me, the courses that I have been teaching since the past 15 years, from UPSA and then now at Legon, I have been going through such development documents. So when you pick Ghana Vision 2020, so beautifully written, we put it together 1995, and it was supposed to be implemented between 1996 and 2020. President Kufuor came, and we have to push it aside. And so we adopted Poverty Reduction Strategy Paper 1. If you look at it, you don't see things so much different from the Vision 2020, because almost very close. Then from there we move on to growth and poverty reduction paper, so that became GPRS 1. Then GSGDA 1, GDA 2. Akufo-Addo came with Ghana Beyond Aid agenda, and so big. And indeed, if you pick Ghana Beyond Aid agenda and you compare it to 24, you hardly see any difference, except changes in names. So make Ghana, Akufo-Addo had a beautiful, plan to develop. I'm talking about the industrialization. So we had one district factory secretariat. Now we've pushed it aside because we are resetting. My question to you, that's where I have a small question for you. Yeah, we've pushed the one because it was doing well. Now I can tell you that over 200 factories are working under this. Some have problems, but over 200, because I invited one of the guys, one of the owners of those factories to my class to teach my students, And so it is real. In my house, my own house, God is my witness, I'm a Methodist, I will not lie. My own house, the tiles that are used for the wall, it's from a factory in Takrady, under 1D1F. One of the old ones, they had about 42 old ones, or around 40-something old ones that were working. Now, we have moved because we are resetting. If NDC is going to rule Ghana forever, I don't have a problem. But there's likely to be a change. And so with what I'm talking about, sustainability.
Yes.
So a new government comes, and if they also decide to reset, then it means that we are going to move from 24-hour economy. And when we do that, we are joking with Ghana. We are not serious. So my problem is the political aspect of the whole thing. And Doc talked about it. Why is it that it's not National Development Planning Commission that is doing everything, maybe giving that advice? They have the experts. They did all this. And so now if you pick the documents, all I'm saying is that over 90% of what you see in the document are seen in all these that I've talked about. And all these documents, we didn't see anything with them when there were changes in government. So are we going to see something different this time? Thank you.
So that's the question. Are we going to see something different with the 24-hour economy? So we'll take some responses from Doc. And so we'll take some responses from Doc. So Doc,
Okay.
if you'd
All
go
right.
ahead with the first question.
Yes, thank you so much for the questions. Private sector involvement, yes. When you read the document, they acknowledge the involvement of the private sector because the government cannot do everything. So they need investment from the private sector. And that is why we talked about appraisals. If you're able to correctly do all the appraisals, then if I'm an investor and I see that, I can do this water lake, I can do this project, I can do that, then I think you see that in the sub-programs, the last one is Go24. Now that Go24 is to solicit public involvement so that you, myself, those of us in the CSOs, academia, everybody, our big man here from the embassy, everybody will be involved to bring ideas. That's what we are doing here, give ideas to the secretariat, they will take it back, revise the whole thing, do the appraisals, put it out there. If I'm an investor, I'm interested, I'll come. So, my brother, don't lose hope, okay? The second one, market failure and government failure. Hey, Sir Pizza, this is a development class question. Okay, so we know market fails when there's underutilization of resources. And so the way to correct both market failure and government failure is to get to the middle of PPP. So when you do the PPP, the public-private partnership, the private will correct the government failure, and the public will also correct the market failure. So I believe that that position, that middle position, is very important to address both the the market failure and the government failure. The next question, you have another question of 333, yes. Your question is that they have campaigned on 133, and the program is not really about 133, maybe 90% on economic transformation. Our proposal, maybe, we didn't state it in the document, but this has come out in the discussion. Our proposal is that if anything at all, the government has absolute control over the public sector. So that in order not for the people in our villages who are not listening to, who have not read the document, not to have a misconception about the program and about the government, we appeal to the government. If possible, they should start the 133 from the public institutions. If possible, not all of them, identify those areas that will give you high productivity, high employment, and high outcome, so that you don't have a misconception about that. But as it stands, we have to, they say we have to transform the economy before the 133 shift. But like you said, Ghanaians are also waiting. So we will propose that the government will look at his own institutions, government institutions. They have absolute control over them. The ones that they believe they can do the 133, they should start. And then the private sector areas will wait. When all the appraisals are done and the economy is transformed, then they can come in. But I think that in the midst or in the process of economic transformation, because if you read the document, they have talked about a value chain, so that along the value chain, there'll be job creation. In fact, they have even projected for over 400,000 jobs every year. So along the value chain, there'll be jobs, created, and they can fuse the two together. Yeah, my friend, my senior from Legon, these are Legon questions. Okay, so what is different about this? I think that we have mentioned that this program really has diagnosed government, our developmental challenges. When you read it carefully, you see that they have outlined why we failed here, why it is, the potential we have, why we are exploiting our potentials. And they also have mentioned the voter basing, which is the flagship of the flagship. And it's quite unique from the existing programs that we have seen. So for me, if this program will fail at all, they shouldn't fail the voter basing. If they do this voter economic corridor alone, I'll be happy because of the numerous economic benefits it will give us as a country. And you also mentioned the sustainability of it. It's a secretariat. That's why we are saying that it should be integrated into the NDPC-led programs, because when you build a secretariat now they even say it will be authority. Authority means that you have an act of parliament backing you, everything you do, and the resource allocation in the budget, etc. What if NDC loses election? What happens to the secretariat? Because we also seen the 1D, 1F secretariat before. We have seen they're planting for free SHS secretariat before. And later on, they were integrated into the mainstream ministries. And so we believe that we must have one plan, and going forward, whether a party wins or loses, we will still be moving forward and not coming back to the same thing again and again and again. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Sarkodie. So we'll just take one more, and from the Israeli ambassador, and then we'll take another question, and then the 24-hour secretariat will respond to the questions that have been asked so far. So
actually, my contribution doesn't have a question.
The microphone. Uh-huh.
So my contribution doesn't have a question mark at the end, but basically compliments, first of all, to the Secretariat and then to the CPS. I learned the program as much as I could some time ago, reporting back to my government. The success of Ghana is very important to Israel. And indeed, when I read the initiative, the 24 hours economy, I felt that it's a little bit familiar to me. I'm a history student. And then I went back to the New Deal of the United States under President Roosevelt in the 30s. Now, I don't know if this was there in your mind or not, but it is very similar. Even the Volta region, which is there was the Tennessee River program within, as you said, was the flagship of the New Deal. So I really wish Ghana, that this initiative will be as successful as the New Deal. The success of Ghana is important to Israel. And going back to the CPS, I think you made a very serious job by producing this report that I think I'm the first one to get a chance.
Yes.
That's the privilege of an ambassador to get a copy of the report. Indeed, you are touching many issues. Two of them I asked myself when I tried to study the program. One is about the finance of the budget that is needed, which is, you said that $4 billion might not be enough. And that's one question mark that I had. And the second one was mentioned by this gentleman, the availability of the political continuity of this program. So those are two question marks among the many that have been presented today that also I had when I tried to study this program, not in such a professional way that was done here. I'm not an economist, but again, just to sum it up, really, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. I'd like to thank for the Secretariat, and I'll be, again, happy to meet you, sir, at the embassy to learn more about it and see how we can be relevant to it. And I wish both of you a very successful program and a very successful work of this center, which I understand is quite new, and I think you have a brilliant future in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So we'll take the last question in the interest of time. Okay, 2 more questions, and then
Okay.
the Secretariat will respond. Can you kindly pass him the mic? Or you go first? Okay, then he'll come back to you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, so my name is Justin Tusoi. I'm the Officer for Economy and Trade at the Netherlands Embassy. I want to commend you for the good presentation.
Thank you.
We at the Netherlands Embassy, we just did our multi-annual country strategy for the next 4 years. So every 4 years, we usually have a strategy for the country that will guide our work for the next 4 years. And I think the Growth 24 is something that we really find very, very interesting. And we've already engaged with the Secretariat on it, because our strategy for the next 4 years will be to invest in the cocoa sector and the horticulture sector.
Sure.
You know, so we are looking at bringing Dutch companies that are active in the horticulture sector to come and invest in the Growth 24, because we believe that the Dutch has the technology. You know, we have irrigation schemes that can actually help, particularly with regards to the Volta River. You know, we have seeds companies that can also come and bring hybrid seed into the country. So we are in touch with the 24-hour, the Growth 24 Secretariat, you know, and in the next few days, we want to pay a courtesy call on Mr. Charles Nunu or something, the coordinator for the Growth 24.
Okay.
Yes. When we met with them, one of the questions was what we are already addressing about the fact that if there's a change in government, it's possible that a new government can change the Secretariat. So what can they do so that if the government changes, a new government will not, change the Secretariat, or even some of the tax relief that are being granted to, the farmers or whatever is taken away, because that will, disrupt the whole purpose of the
Sure.
of the program.
Yeah.
So it's something that we are watching closely, and we are already reaching out to Dutch companies, like companies that are active in horticulture to come and invest. And next week we'll be having a trade mission. We are bringing about 20 Dutch companies that are active in the horticulture sector, and the Growth 24 will be making a representation on that. So maybe we can give an invitation for you to also
definitely.
come around. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So we'll take the last question. So please introduce yourself and then your institution, and then you can ask your question.
My name is Iman Okeajuman. I'm a prospective PhD student in public policy and administration. I want to find out if we have a rep from NDPC.
Is there any rep from NDPC here?
Okay, if there is, so because my
I
question.
think we invited them.
So yes, we did. It's possible they're in the overflow. I'm not sure, but you can go ahead with the
Like
question.
Professor Donfe said, the major challenge in the country has been policy continuation and sustainability. And so that makes me all the time question the role NDPC plays in this whole process. Because we're here talking about the 24-hour economy, and then we know that there's been solid policies in the past. If you look at the one district, one factory that was private-led by the previous administration, a new government comes or a new transition comes, and then it does away with the old policy. If you look at the 24-hour economy, it's very solid for me on paper. We are yet to see its implementation process and all that. What role is NDPC playing together with the Secretariat to ensure that at the end of the day, should there be a change of government in the future, this good policy that we're here talking about doesn't become a thing of the past? And what NDPC also, I think, fails to do sometimes is that, the policies or the manifesto of the political party should be embedded in the overall policy structure of NDPC. I don't see why NDC should have its policies, NPP should have its policies, and then at the end of the day, like Doug, you said, NDPC will rather have to go to the political parties, if I got you right, and then take their policies, and then NDPC the political party should be guided by the overall policy structure of NDPC, so that at the end of the day, when each political party is carving or structuring its manifesto, it feeds into the major or the long-term plan of the country, so that we do away with this whole policy truncation after each transition that we've been seeing. Other than that, 8 years, 12 years, 16 years, should NPP come to power, this policy will be a thing of the past, because NDPC all the time fails to play that role that at the end of the day, it should enable that policy and continuation and sustainability that we need as a country. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So now I would give the opportunity to the 24-hour Secretariat to respond to our questions. So he'll come up here. So.
Thank you very much. And I really want to commend Center for Policy Scrutiny for this very wonderful opportunity, and what you have done is fantastic. We believe that in the trajectory of building a nation, you have to make what I call surgical operational decisions. When someone is sick with cancerous cells, you do not give them paracetamol. You have to do a surgical operation to make sure it works. The 24-hour economy program, the conception of its ideology is thought leadership strategy. The design of its operational strategies. We thought that it was imperative that this become necessarily Ghanaian. So the 286 or 87, it was over 400-page document that we have really put together, was put together in the following process. We had over 350 different meetings with the wide range of the sectors, industry, academia, private sector, development partners, ordinary people in Katamanton, Makola. We probably would have met with 1,500 people personally, one-on-one, in writing this document. So the framing of this policy document was done by ordinary Ghanaians who are studying economics in Legon, in tech, some of us, Louise, Guzi, and we were sleeping in the night to write this document, because we wanted to write a document that is a full expression of what we want to deliver for the nation, wrapped around the spirit of Pan-Africanism and nationalism. So just want to clarify the notion that the document that you have was not written by KPMG or PwC or McKinsey, written by ordinary Ghanaians who really care about the nation. And when you read the document, we had some reflections from Oxford University and Cambridge, my alma mater, particularly the economics department of Oxford. And they said they have never seen such a policy document in the last few decades from a government, and thus demonstrate how serious we are. So I think that we should commend ourselves that the ingenuity and the intelligence, the brilliance of Ghanaians can produce a blueprint economic strategy for themselves. So I just want to clarify that from the onset, so that there's no misconception that government develop a document that he wants to impose on people and implement. It's a very important fundamental fact to underscore. And I will take some of the questions and I think the points that you have raised are extremely important. Most of the questions that you've asked demonstrate our desire to see this nation really developed. And it also demonstrated the fact that you don't want to see a brilliant policy to be killed by political expediency. One change, another change, and then we don't do it. And so every question you have raised this morning really is refreshing to me. And coming from the Secretariat and being part of this, architect of this document, really touched me. So I want to thank you so much for such a deep reflection and the way you have posed those questions. It really is deeper than perhaps the way you have expressed it. So let me take some of the points briefly, the major issues. Number one is the alignment with NDPC. For policy continuity, every nation that has developed policy coherence and continuity is very important. When we're framing this initiative, we had to study some nations and ask ourselves, how did they get here? Number one was China. It's only the last 3 decades, the last 30 years, that China has become what it was. Ghana has been in existence for close to 60 years or more. What did we do in the last 30 years, since 1996? What we have seen, that the economy that we have inherited today from 1996 is one in which it does not produce jobs. So we moved from 10.6 billion GDP to 80 billion GDP, and our job ratio has been going down. So our economy that we have does not produce jobs. And remember, we have constructed this economy that we have inherited today from all the public programs that we have, you mentioned here, and one of our professors talked about. So we looked at all the policy framework from 1960s up to today to really ask ourselves, why are we where we are? What we could have done better. So we studied 1D1F, some of the challenges that it faced, and we turned that into opportunities which we incorporated into underscoring and framing the 24 economy program. So yes, it bears clear semblance and characteristics with some of the development imperatives that we've heard about. But clearly, we have asked ourselves, how could we deliver something different that could ensure continuity, that within the next 10 years, we will see Ghana really expanding and exploding? And how could we expand our GDP beyond 80 billion whilst creating 1.7 million jobs? So that was the thinking. We looked at Singapore and how they developed. We looked at Malaysia. We looked at Rwanda. We looked at Sierra Leone. If you remember, from 2000, just after the war, and the way Sierra Leone was moving, it was accelerating very fast. What was that period of 10 years that Sierra Leone did very well? What made it different? And how is it that it stunted its growth? So we learned from accelerated growth, decelerated growths, the anything in between, and we frame this trajectory, and we thought, this is something that we need to pick in and move on it. You will see that we have made a projection that is moving beyond 2028 to 2034, with the assumption that there's going to be a policy continuity and make it happen. NDPC is one of the institutions that we work very closely to frame this. Dr. Nimue Thompson was really one of the architects of this. We talked to the board, we talked to the teams, and we have set up, with close collaboration with the NDPC, an inter-policy team that really worked, that is comprised of all the MDAs. Recently we met across all ministries, department agencies, to really look at how to interpret the policy into their MDAs. So that discussion, that is happening, and there's a whole dedicated team that is working with it. And so NDPC is not an outlier in this. We've also met with Council for Scientific and Industrial Research to make sure that this is really, the implementation is underpinned by some of the interventions that they've made. As you can see, we multi-dimensional had this program cuts across all sectors of the economy. And CSIR has done tremendous research into what should work from building to seed development, Center for Plant Medicines, and every one of them. So they are one of the strong allies that we work in terms of implementation. to underpin our implementation with research and data. And we believe that we can actually coordinate very well with the university institutions to be able to do that. One of the flagship program, which has to do with machines and then pharmaceuticals, we are doing that with Legon University, and we are doing that, the other one, engineering, with University of Science and Technology, as the fulcrum to bring like-minded academia into this. And now we have policy think tanks such as CPS that can coordinate with the other think tanks to be able to frame this. So NDPC, and not just NDPC, but all government machinery that concerns this is mobilized through our Go 24 program. When you have an economy where you import $350 million per year of yamwadia, you do not structure the economy to be productive through piecemeal approaches, which is why an integrated value chain approach is what we have adopted. And one of the key principles is ensuring that there's coherence across different sectors in the way we push. So we believe that there is a government response to this economic deformity, and there's a private sector response to the economic deformity. We have always been talking about PPPs, but one of the things we believe is that in a country where we are an IMF regime, where our fiscal space, in terms of mobilizing fiscal space, is very small, the only way we can take off is to mobilize and revolutionize the mobilization of the private sector. And therefore, if you look at the mix of PPP, for us, the P capital is the private sector. So this program is necessarily enshrined around the work with the private sector. So our implementation approach is to ensure that the private sector actually take the lead. During the launching, the president emphasized twice, this is not going to be implemented by the public sector. The public sector will enable the private sector to lead the implementation. Government will not take the lead, it's the private sector that will drive it. So everything from mobilization of technology, establishment of cooperatives, working with investors, we have created all of this to make sure the private sector will provide the lead. And therefore, our incentive structure, the way we have constructed it is going to be a performance-based incentives where you will be judged by certain parameters. One is additionality of jobs and the extent to which we are able to monitor the 400,000 jobs per year, your contribution to that. The other one is your contribution to the economy in terms of production for accelerated exports. The other one is your innovation to ensure that the diversified products that we want to develop through the value chain process, that we are able to see through your creativity and ingenuity, derivative products coming to your production lines. Because one of the, and I will come to that point about 1D, 1F and how everybody is integrated, because it is the private sector. So there's one of the companies that actually is accelerating their implementation through the 24 economy. Out of 5 fruits, they are able to produce 148 different derivative products, which are finding their expression in the European market today. So it is possible that you look at the various products that you're producing and be able to do that along the value chain. So all these things are incorporated into the protocol that we engage in the industry with. We work very closely with AGI. And as you know, most of the companies that were developed during the 1D, 1F were all members of Association of Ghana Industry. Our readiness protocol is to work with all of them. So we have met with all of them, looking at how they expand, looking at how they respond to market, and how we can support them to be able to advance and accelerate their industry and expand. So we are more inclusive and then it is embracing everyone else. What we are trying to do is really to build on what works and make sure that we can expand it and correct the deformities or the constraints in the value chain which did not allow some of the industries that were set up in YNYF to be able to grow. One of the things that you will see with the industry today, some of them were set up in YNYF, was the fact that they could not have raw materials. The rubber sector, the share nut sector, and some of the processing processes that we have seen. So we are trying to make sure that we can correct that by ensuring that the raw materials are necessarily given to the private sector. The other thing is the market. One of the things you will see with us is to ensure that there is a change in the procurement law to allow local content so we can assimilate the market when they are produced. The markets that we do have is $3.5 billion of imported food. That is the market for producers to substitute. So how do we ensure that the producers will be able to substitute this market? We have organized our production through agroecological parks, and to ensure that we will be able to do that by providing the following: the land for your expansion. 2, capital. How do we make capital? How do we address the issue of capital? We have framed what we call the SME financial facility. Now, the SME facility is built in the following way. Our major partner for that is Development Bank of Ghana, so they can have an wholesale fund. Long-term concessional loan will go through that. We just signed $500 million with Badia. $500 million with Badia. We have arrangement with Ghana International Bank. We have arrangement with other development financial institutions to pool a total of $1.2 billion SME facility to do the following: to provide patient capital to the small medium enterprises. This was one of the gaps in previous development trajectories with private sector. Provide patient capital so that you be able to access this capital at least less than 10%, with 3 to 5 years minimum moratorium to enable you to build your equity and be able to start making profit. And we also believe that it's important that we change our industry to bring in some decorum in the way they work. So we frame this in our cooperatives, associations. We strengthen the industries, unions, and so on, trade unions and so on, so that it would ensure, it will help to de-risk the investment and minimize NPLs. So all these things is being done to help the private sector to take the lead in overall implementation of the program. So the program, I want to clarify that this is necessarily private sector. Now, how do we ensure continuity? And I'll end here with that. Yes, what you are feeling today, what you are expressing today is also our fear. And it's the fear of every Ghanaian. No good thing should come and then go. Every country that has been able to develop has been very consistent. And so we have to be worried about that. And I think that concern is being expressed. And the way this is being approached, number one is changes from secretariat to authority. The bill has been passed in cabinet, and Parliament will accent it. So we will come 24-hour economic authority. That will guarantee some signals of continuity going forward. The second is when we succeed with the private sector money, long-term concessional agreements that is coming through. It is the success that will speak for itself, that will allow the continuity. The third, when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah set up Volta River Authority, the same sentiments were there. If Kwame Nkrumah was not there, Volta River Authority would not continue. Today, Volta River Authority is still there. So we have seen a precedent in which good things have been safeguarded, because the Volta River Authority was handling, our energy sector and so on. So I think that with this, the bill, Convergent Authority, and the concession agreement and relationship with the private sector who would invest in our agroecological parks and industrial parks, and the success that will come therein would speak for itself. And I think the final thing about the continuity is that all of us should not express this as a question. We should express this as citizens' desire that this should be maintained and becomes the blueprint for economic transformation. And I think this is what it is required of all of us to push that through. I don't know if I've missed any other question, but the last one, I think I have addressed some of the things, and the market failure, as you addressed it, Prof. addressed it very well. I've clarified some of the issues around, how this is set up. It is not government imposing. It is grassroots mobilized from industry, academia, everybody to set this up. And the implementation is necessarily the private sector. So these are three main points that I think you should carry it on. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Dr. Dodu, for your comment. Oh, please. Can we please get the microphone to Dr. Kweku? Can we please get the microphone?
Thank you very much. I think a point was made about of functions, particularly between the 24-hour secretariats and various public agencies. We are very much aware of it, because if you look at the design of the project, it cuts across all the critical agencies, especially the ministries, and therefore and other stuff can start, emerging. So one of the programs that we are working on currently is work with the civil service, the ministries and departments, to ensure that we identify the key performance indicators as relates to the 24-hour economy in the context of each ministry. And then going forward, by the end of the year, we will get the head of the civil service to set performance targets as part of the performance management system that is currently in place, so that by 2026, we can begin to do some critical evaluation of how various ministries are working with the Secretariat, first to minimize duplication and to enhance program implementation. And I thought I should bring that up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that clarification. And thank you all for your questions and your reflections as well. I think that we all really engaged in the presentation, and that's good to see. There were some critical themes that came out from today's presentation of the 24H Plus review paper. The comprehensiveness of the program, private sector mobilization, institutional coherence and alignment, economic impacts, particularly with employment and value addition. And then also one of the key things that came up was continuity, which is where most people are concerned about. Now, as we draw this program to a close, I hope we are all stirred by a powerful reflection of what has been presented today and what has also been contributed by the Secretariat. We can all acknowledge that implementing programs like these are very complex, and as such, identifying the key fundamentals are very, very important. But here at CPS, we believe that better outcomes are possible. So I'd like to get the final word again from the Secretariat to this session. And just briefly, what will the success of this program look like for the country? Very briefly, if you can comment on that. What will the success of the 24H plus look like for the country?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very big question. So I would dream, like all of us. The first success is all Ghanaians
So the first success we would like to see is all Ghanaians overwhelmingly commending the initiative. Students getting, or people who learn trade and get to the job market, within the first 6 months of any graduation, you have jobs. At the moment, your first anniversary of job is about 5 years of graduation into the job market. So we want to see that the first 6 months, you get a job. We want to see the diversity of Ghanaian products, not just in Ghana, but in the Netherlands, in Europe, in West Africa, and so on. We want to see Ghanaian products dominating the African Continental Free Trade Area in a very massive way, and expanding our GDP beyond 80 billion to over 200 billion, and the difference is made from production made in Ghana. We want to see Ghanaians, Ghana leading in West Africa as a hub of major production all across West African region, and occupying the households of over 425 million population. And finally, the success, one of the key aspects of the success is to be able to see Ghana being self-sufficient, self-reliant, and we are not afraid of COVID or any other major shift that would affect our supply chain and global supply chain. And Ghana is actually being able to provide food sufficiency and security across West Africa countries, particularly the Sahel countries whose economies are intertwined with our country. Overall, we want to see more Ghanaians being wealthy, more billionaires emerging out of this, and Ghana's wealth is actually finding expressions in other West African countries. That is the dream that we want to see, and it is possible. Extremely possible, because if we import $3.5 billion of food, and you only decide to use the next 3 years to substitute 100%, that translates into jobs, wealth by Ghanaians, and we'll be able to make this dream happen. Thank you.
All right, I think we should give ourselves another round of applause, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that we've really had a very, very fruitful discussion this morning, and we also do appreciate your contributions, feedback, and on today's presentation. Just to also acknowledge the team from the University of Ghana, if you can just wave. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. We also want to acknowledge the presence of the rep from the Conrad Edenua Stiftan Foundation, Dr. Joseph Damoy. Thank you very much for coming, and of course to everyone who has also joined us here. Now, it is very important that we continue this conversation when we are out of here, and get policymakers and implementers take these recommendations as feedback, so that we all as Ghanaians can benefit from this policy, especially the many young people who are unemployed. Now, as part of our commitment, we'll be publishing review papers annually on the implementation of the program. Following today's maiden presentation, we have copies available for you, so please make sure you grab one at our registration desks. But you can also visit our website, cpsghana.com. That's cpsghana.com if you want a soft copy on your mobile phone or any gadget. You can also follow us on our social media handles as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube. In the coming weeks, CPS will hold a series of activities including youth dialogue, an online spaces conversation, a thought leadership fireside chat on this paper, and other emerging economic matters. And we invite you to follow our handles or follow our events wherever you are and engage with us. Once again, on behalf of the board and management, we say thank you to everyone who joined us here. What you didn't know was that we had thousands of people watching online because we're streaming on our social media handles and, of course, on City Newsroom's YouTube page. So many people have been watching online. I want to thank those who join us online as well. Make sure you join us for our next engagement, and let's all work hard to help Ghana win. Thank you so much once again, and God bless us all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please, we have some, don't forget to take copies of the report, and then we also have some. Thank you so much.
I was so passionate.